Hello, hello. Um, I want to talk to you today about solution-focused therapy with families. Um, Brief introduction: solution-focused therapy is future-focused. It's not concerning itself with the past or even the source of the problem. It focuses on solutions. So to do that, it works by the therapist and the client in a co-constructive way. The two together work their way into a um, solution-based psychotherapy. It's not really important to know the source of the problem. It's more important to create solutions. So we're kind of like in a starting point and then expand from there. I was trying to think of the type of thinking that is. It slipped my mind. Basically, you make small changes, and the small changes all combine to reach the goal. So that's the gist of it. The leading figures in this are pretty interesting. I'm not going to go into their histories per se. Steve DeShazer and Kim Berg, she was from Korea, began this in the 80s. A lot of these therapies are new. New, 80s is new. Began in Milwaukee. And it was influenced by this fellow, Milton Erickson. We mentioned him earlier in a different therapy. Um, Erickson's idea is that everybody possesses the skills, and this should sound familiar to you. I'll let you dig back in to see if you think it's strategic or structural or whichever therapy you think it might be. But Erickson believed that all people possess skills and abilities, and these skills and abilities relate to their ability to solve their own problems, and that making small changes leads to big changes. Gregory Batson influenced this. Batson worked with several other people, and all together they eventually developed this solution focused therapy with families. Um, Now, there was an establishment conceived and then put into action called the Brief Family Therapy Center. This was in England. This was in Milwaukee, and it was formed in order to forward solution focused therapy, a place where people could go and receive the treatment of this solution focused business. And then in England, they established kind of a sister to this whole thing called the brief therapy practice. And the brief therapy practice was the British version of the BFTC. Um, and it was primarily set up to use solution focused therapy, but over in that part of the world. Um, in order to understand how this works, I've already mentioned the basics. The idea that you want to focus on solutions instead of problems is pretty disruptive for most family therapists because their view is that you need to focus on past experiences. That's kind of a Freudian view, really, if you stop and think about it. Thinking about generational patterns, that's not so Freudian there. Family legacies, all of these little family inputs that go toward the creation of family life. SFT, short for solution focused therapy, SFT is trying to modernize thinking in this focus on solutions. So they look forward instead of backwards. Um, However, once that's established, then sometimes there is a backwards look toward the experiences that have formed the perceptions that exist in the family now. Another interesting aspect of this is that the client's input in all this way more pronounced in SFT than other therapies. So they're basically your working partner more so than a client. They are a client, of course, but they're basically taking the lead in some of this therapy. Now, there's this aspect called social constructionism. Social constructionism means at least in this therapy, that the therapist takes the stance of not really knowing what's going on. And although you most likely do, you don't take that stance. You take the stance of not being in the dark per se, but not being the lead in this. So that opens the door for the client to take the lead again in some of the things that you're trying to accomplish in looking at the potential solutions or solution. And then again, knowing based on what you heard a while ago about Erickson that people are equipped to be able to solve their own problems. They need that pointed out to them. They, by and large, have to be educated to know that their potential exists. The brief model has kind of evolved. Your text points it out into three. What would you call these questions? I suppose would be the best way to do it. The three questions are: what are your best hopes for the meeting, meaning between client and therapist, but this goes both ways. What will be the difference? What will be different when the hopes are achieved, if they are? And what is already working that can help the hopes become reality? So these are, again, present focused, not past. There's an interesting aspect of this, and has to do with what's called resistance. The client is never seen as being pathological or resistant. A solution-focused therapist believes that the client, like I've said, possesses the abilities, the skills and tools to change and to make their life better. If they decide this is a goal that they want to truly aspire to. And when it comes across as being resistant on the part of the client, really the focus is turned toward the therapist. So the idea is that there is no resistant client, only an inflexible therapist. And these words are directly out of your text. This is a departure from other therapies, more traditional therapies. Another aspect of this is motivation. I won't go into detail with that. Clients and therapists together construct clear goals as to how to reach solutions. For example, they actually are divided divided into three types of clients: visitors, complainers, and customers. I guess they borrow that from the business world. There's a consideration that the client is the expert in this, the way this works. Solution-oriented models, kind of an offshoot of solution-focused therapy. I won't get into that, but that it shares the same room as solution-focused therapy, and it basically incorporates the same beliefs and ideas. The only difference is one is who started each one of these, basically. And finally, what is a therapist's role? I've already described it. It's not essential to know the source of the problem. It's the focus is create a solution. The therapist supports the client and the client's gaining insight into their preferred future. And then you have to, as a therapist, trust if you're using this therapy, you have to trust that the client knows what is best for them. You just have to allow them to take the lead. And in that same realm, they know how to solve their problems and they know how to take care of their complaints that led them to therapy. You just have to point that out to them. You already know how to do this. I'm just going to help you recognize it. So those are the basic points. There's a whole lot more to it, and obviously that's for your reading pleasure. And I'll see you again in a few days, and we'll wrap this week up. Toodaloo.